Good evening, friends, and welcome to Kirby Russia. Today we have a special guest, and you can see by some of the information behind him, yes, we're actually going to talk about the digital ruble, just as I promised. Dmitry Kosten is with us today. Dmitry, thank you very much for your time. I just
Thanks, Tim, for inviting me as well.
Oh yeah, and Dmitry actually has like a whole presentation set up, which is great because Dmitry, I'm actually sick as a dog today, so this is going to be awesome. I get to relax, you do all the work, a very fair
Okay.
deal. So, but I just want to tell the audience, from your resume written in Russian, you're the founder of the Russian Fund of the Digital Economy, the creation of the digital economy. You've worked at 3D Business Solutions. You're the head of 3D Business Solutions in America. You've provided expertise to BRICS, which is pretty amazing. Very impressive resume. Puts me to shame. So, anyways, Dmitry, first thing, you kind of have a presentation, so I think you kind of just want to sort of take the lead on your own here. But first off, let's just talk about the basics. What the heck is this digital ruble, and how scared should we be of it?
Well, thanks, Tim, for inviting me to your podcast and to answer your first part of the question. In short, what is actual digital ruble? Is it's a in a simple terms, it's a currency. It's not money, it's currency.
Okay.
But to answer, kind of like to provide you a deeper answer, what is actually currency and how it impacts, I think the bottom line, everybody is looking at the answer, how it impacts the socioeconomic framework or socioeconomic system in the long run. We need to elevate this conversation is a little bit to the higher level. So we have to look at the situation from socioeconomic perspective, not just
Okay.
as a tool, as an entity by itself. So, like you mentioned before, I have prepared the presentation, and if you don't mind, I'll put this on screen and we'll kind of go from there.
All right, let's do it. Because I'm curious, and trust me, a lot of people on our channel have been curious about the digital ruble. So let's do it.
All right, let's hit the road. Let me just get to this onto the screen.
Uh-huh.
All right. So, like I said, to get a more comprehensive answer to what is digital ruble may be and what kind of impact it has on the existing social and economic system going forward, we would need to elevate this discussion on kind of social economic framework. And I will start with this slide, which pretty much states that that globalization is complete. And when the bottom line of the slide is when the globalization is finished, it changes the economy from non-saturated to saturated state in a very short terms.
Yeah.
And when the change of state of economy happens, the property of the global, from the global economy perspective, the property of the economy are also changes. Think of it as like from the laws of thermodynamics. If your gas is non-saturated or saturated, the gas behaves differently, and the economy is kind of works in the same way with that analogy. And when we have properties of the economy change, the protocol of collaboration changes, and money becomes the key. Money is the key element of the protocol of collaboration. And the key point, what I'm trying to say is, as state of economy changes, the very concept of the money needs to change. And this is what slide indicates, that globalization requires stricter formalization of the collaboration, and formalization of collaboration perceived as a loss of the freedom in the eyes of many, if not designed from its first principles, where the money is the key element of the protocol of collaboration, and it must be designed with the collaboration, first of all, in mind. And this is, in my assessment, kind of jumping ahead of the conversation. This discussion have not happened inside of Russia. The concept of the central, the whole discussion of the central bank of the digital ruble was focused around the central bank and the internal workings of the ruble, not the collaboration where we kind of open up that discussion.
Well, see, one thing I was told was that one of the reasons they want to do the digital ruble is it's some reason to get around sanctions. That's going to be kind of easier to send this digital ruble here and there. Is that part of the collaboration or no?
In a way it is, but we will cover it like more in a broader perspective because it's one small element that should not be taken or should not be viewed just out of context of the other elements. We will try to look at from the more systemic perspective. And what also the interesting part is the new feature of the global economy is such feature, the consequence that in the global economy, the profiteering, meaning the unfair gaining at expense of others, will inadvertently lead to the decline of the entire society. And, whether this will happen due to inefficient allocation of resources as a result of the unfair gaining, or due to the breakdown of the social collaboration fabric, it really doesn't matter. So what I'm trying to say is, in the global economy, we really have to come with utmost care to design the system of collaboration where money is the key element, key component of that collaboration.
Okay.
And my next slide, I do not want to get into details of it, just kind of like just to give you the high-level framework of what it takes to design the collaboration and what it takes to design money and where the money comes from. Money is again, kind of jumping ahead, money is the instrument of servicing the value.
Yeah.
It's a protocol of transferring value. And the value is a very intricate entity that, looking from the top down or the bottom up, has economic concept and also has a social aspect to it. So the economic and social aspects are combined together. So and the money kind of sits right in the middle of those aspects that impact both social and economic values in a very intricate, very, very profound way that in the global economy, not in the global and local as well, but in local you kind of is observant of the centralized system of governance. But when you step out of the borders of the borders of the one centralized system governance and go outside of it, you have to find the ways to collaborate those concepts of the values that can work, those protocols of the exchanging values that can work together. And just to give you the idea what is the type of the work that needs to be done is, if you look into social economic system, it's a 6-layer abstraction model.
Yeah.
Where the privacy and money, based on that abstraction money, must be designed from the first principle. And to kind of run down, it's a system of mutually embedded models, where the kind of the very inner model is a real sector, real economic sector. And abstraction from the real economic sector is IT management system. And abstraction from the IT management system is actually economic model. And the economic model comes from the social concepts. The social concepts comes from ideas or ideology based on which that social concept is built. And then to make sure that everything works together and kind of nicely, tightly fits, you have to have methodology. Otherwise, you can't make things work. So to kind of look into this model from perspective, just to give you an idea, everything starts with an idea.
Yeah.
And let's just kind of run a couple of scenarios. Let's consider that I am born with the idea that I'm the chosen one. Okay. I am the single elected leader of the world, or the small section of that world, and I should rule predominantly, and all decisions I should be making. So I will build the centralized system of governments where I will propagate that into social concept, that there should be a centralized form of ideas. I will propagate this through the social ideas, through the economic model, through the IT management system, and into the real economic system, where IT management system will be built in a such way that will concentrate the power and the decision making on me. And I will have this magic push button where yes or no, or we're speaking in abstract terms, of course. It's a little bit more complicated than that. But basically, the decisions that I make are my decision. And let's say, Tim, you have you come with the different from different background, and you say, okay, I am great and fantastic, but there is a plenty of guys like me. So we would like to run our decision making by consensus.
Yeah.
So, of course, you will propagate this idea of running by consensus through the social concepts. Your model, as a result of those social concepts, will look drastically different than my model, the structure of the model, because it requires the collection of the opinions and the system of governance where not a single entity can overtake the control of the system. And of course, your IT management system, the architecture of the IT management system as an abstraction of the real economic sector, will have a different architectures and different mechanisms of controlling the process. So to take this idea further, we are at the stage where the globalization has finished. I mean, we're at the stage of the global economy. It's no longer the process of globalizing. We are in the world of the global economy. And what happened is, like, once we arrive in the global economy, we realize we're at the crisis. And the crisis comes from one phrase. It's a lack of trust in institutions. The lack of trust in institutions come not only from external sites where nobody trusts nobody, but also from the internal. So people do not trust the governments inside of their countries, and also the countries do not trust each other for as we see in a world arena today. And the interesting component when you start analyzing, kind of trying to objectively analyze, of course, the trust comes from a trustworthy institution. And I am putting here two quotations from the history that trust, as we know, has been abused for very long period of time by the institutions. And I'm not talking about right now by all kinds of institutions. I'm actually finger pointing to the credit financial system. And that trust has been abused. I'm kind of jumping ahead through the designing protocols of exchanging the value, which is called money, in a such way that it unfairly benefits one's at exchange of another's. And we're at the critical stage where we have to change those protocols. And that work, I'm again jumping ahead of it. That work has not been done by the Central Bank of Russia, unfortunately, today.
Well, is that because they want to keep things the way they are, so that way they can stay at the top of the chain?
You're exactly right. And I have slides, and what I'm trying to do, I'm not trying to be kind of like present a subjective or opinionated way. I'm showing this, I'm trying to, this presentation is built in such a way to show it kind of like in an objective methodological way that this is the requirements that you have to step out of your subjectivity and go to the objective way of constructing this system of collaborations. Otherwise it's not going to work. I mean, we are going to get instinct. And just kind of to go with the slideshow show, Tim. I'm just pointing out a couple of historical comments that have been made by Henry Ford and Mayor Rothschild. They are I'm sure your audience well aware of this comment.
They're very familiar.
So the first one says, "It is great that our nation does not understand how the national monetary system works. If they did, of course, they would hang us." And the Rothschild said, "Give me the control of the nations of the money, and I do not care who makes the law." And it is very once you understand how once the public understands how the existing great financial system works in today's world that we all subscribe to very voluntarily. It's becoming mind-boggling how much of the value is being taken out of the system, and this is the answer why millions and millions of people work generations through generations, and they continue to die poor. And let me just kind of like to run through this. At the very top of the countries, we are not talking now about international bodies such as Bank for International Settlements, IMF, and so on. We're talking about strictly from the country's perspective, and it doesn't matter which country it is. Everywhere it kind of works the same with some little caveats. At the very top, there's a central bank. Central banks are actually private organizations with some government relationships, but the key is it's a private organizations, the central banks. And it starts with the mission, which is the mission of the entities, which we call money. They are. I am skipping all the discussions how the money get emissions.
People generally know how that works. Especially I see you have the fractional reserve. How $1 creates $9. Everyone should be pretty familiar with that.
Perfect. So on a banking level, on a central banking level, you have senior rush. On a banking level, you have system of fractional reserve, the concept time value of money. Again, it's an industry level that takes value, the actual value out of the system, and the government layer is a Keynesian economic model. That's where also the value continuously gets taken out of the system through the system where the government becomes the holder of the obligations, of the debt-based obligations, and the big economic participants become the holders of the assets. So to get through this kind of to the bottom line is that to answer your question, what is money and what is ruble? What is money and what is currency? Is that if we take strict definition of the economics, the difference between money and currency in the current world is what the banks issue as a banknotes. It's a cash and the metal change, and the money is something that sits inside of the banking system and generates interest. That's the biggest difference that between money and currencies. The currencies are, in effect, obligations of the central banks, and the money is liability of the central bank to you. So the economic difference is the money is a unit of account, medium of exchange, and it has store of value that continues to get devalued. And the currency has unit of account, medium of exchange, and the store of value does not exist. This is the key. So if we look at the digital ruble, what digital ruble is, it's a currency that has no store of value. The store of value gets only generated through the interest when it sits inside of your account in the bank.
Yeah.
And since the digital ruble is a system of payment, it's a form of transacting the activity. The way it's designed, that it never receives the interest rate as an instrument of offsetting the devaluation through the multiple layers of removing value from financial system. That's what the big mega difference is. So, and to get you to kind of the more elaborate the answer to your question, the central bank positions digital ruble as third form of money, and it is not third form of money. It is purely, again, I emphasize from economic perspective, it's a pure currency that has no store of value. It's a money, effectively, currency is the money without store of value. And it is, when it is augmented, when it's empowered with the transparency from the central banking perspective, it becomes the currency with 360 degree of view of the entire financial system. Mm-hmm. And just looking into the transactions, you can make a lot of judgments about the economic activities and so on. So from the personal use of from the perspective of the personal use, it's a two-layer wallet system that can be, those transactions can be programmed, and because it's completely transparent and they are subject to control of the entity, such as central bank, there is a legitimate fear that those transactions can be subjected to, over time, subjected to the such things as dark patterns, A/B testing, or near psychological gamification designed to alter the behavior of the consumers. From the central bank perspective,
the gamification thing is interesting. Does that mean if you make like a certain purchase at a certain institution, you get like cash back? Is it something like that? Is that the gamification, or are you referring to something else?
It's one of the ways. I am referring to something else where your perception of the values can be influenced based on the needs of those who control the currency. Think of the currency as a current, as a something that flows.
Yeah.
Right. And you are at the very top of the food chain, and you need to, what digital currencies allow you, they allow you to program those currents up to the very micro level. And when you see that the current is not flowing the way you designed, you can actually alter the behavior through the prohibitive tariffs, through the subsidies, through creation, through the additional instrument of the creation of the perception that something is better than another, or simply stop service in certain area. Let's say you decide that a region of Krasnoyarsk should be entirely green zone, that nobody should be living. It's good for the nature.
Yeah.
And you can actually design it in a such way that once you enter the area of the Krasnoyarsk, currency are no longer accepted.
Oh.
Like it or not, everybody will move out of that area, as an example. So this is a way of managing the behavior through the services. So should we kind of go through or it's somewhat self-evident. The slide had been on the
I think so. From the business, it works in dissonance with global trends. System undercuts Russia's aspiration to gain full sovereignty. So undercuts Russia's aspiration to gain full sovereignty. Well, that's kind of interesting. Then why is so much of the government then tolerating it? That's one of these questions where, after the war started, it seems in a lot of ways that Russia's left a lot of international institutions. Why does it still play ball with this central bank?
Well, first of all, I believe that the reason why the Russia still kind of like stays with that existing structure, because first of all, it's a structure that exists and it works. It's like a trying to fix the plane while the plane is flying.
Good point.
Secondly,
good point. Yeah.
Secondly, unfortunately, I have not seen even an indications of understanding the level of complexity of this task. And the central bank is completely driving the design.
Yeah.
And as a driver, kind of like the entity that sits in the driver's seat, it defines the agenda. And unfortunately, I do not know. Maybe those type of conversation took place in a private discussions, but in the public domain, there is nothing of a kind that anyone systemically is bringing up those sophisticated issues.
Well, that's because they're sophisticated. If they were simple issues, like, you live in America, so you know about wedge issues. You got your abortion, guns, taxes. These things are a lot more kind of blunt and in your face. And once you get into monetary policy, it's kind of in a different universe that's hard to get people particularly angry over.
Right. And what's important to understand why this is the undercuts, just kind of like in a very trying to explain the simple term why it undercuts the sovereignty of the country. The country has declared itself as a civilization. The country has declared itself from the political perspective, from the international policy standpoint. The country has declared itself that they are pursuing a multipolar world. In a multipolar world, you have, and we have this slide further on, you have multiple set of values. That's understood because values come from the perception. Different set of values has to come together in the cohesive structure that works and serves those values through the means of exchange. So just to get this idea that we have to understand that your local currency must be designed in a such way that they allow the manufacturing of decentralized set of asset groups. And with the current setup, the ruble is highly centralized, and the centralized is a subset, the very specific subset to the decentralized group. If you declare the multipolarity, you are automatically preaching to the decentralized values. Decentralized values create decentralized systems.
That's what Sergei Glaziev, I think, was talking about, where they want to make a currency based on some generic value of a few different currencies and commodities, so that way it sort of belongs to no one.
We will speak about Sergei Glaziev. Sergei Glaziev's idea is to use commodities as a basis, but there is a problem of when you use commodities as a basis, there is a problem of rehypothecation. The idea where your collateral gets used as a collateral and so on, and use it some sort of commodity to as an asset, you actually increase the value of that commodity. So this is a gold-based monetary model that had in the past had some economic issues, and it's not going to work. I mean, kind of jumping ahead, you have to be able to why the gold or commodities are used. You have to kind of like secure the unit of account, that with that unit of account you can buy the assets.
Yeah.
Well, we have technologies that are able to secure that unit of account. Why and the Bitcoin, for example, is doing that job just fine. Why do you need to secure it with some kind of other pledge? This is where the old Sergei's work, with all the respect to his work, comes from the old perspectives, from old framework of thought of centralized form of governance. And we have to, in a decentralized form of governance, where there is a the process of disintermediation takes place, and the value becomes abstract, removed from the particular asset, and becomes like abstraction of its own, just like system of governance gets abstracted out from the economy itself, kind of in a way, through the IT systems, as an example. Did I confuse or did I answer the question?
I think I got it. I think I got it. All right, maybe let's move on to the next one here. Everything kind of makes sense so far.
Right. So to answer your first question, as you know, it's not an easy question when you try to dig in. What is digital ruble today? It depends on the solution. Is it some sort of total control mechanism that can shut down people who disagree with the government? It can be. And the way it is designed today, it is very possible, unfortunately, because of the discussion of the higher, more complicated nature of this engineering tasks are not taking place. Is this means of West sneaking back into Russia? It can be that as well. If you allow your system of values to become the subservient to the system of values of the West. This is the key. And when Russia declares itself as a sovereign state on the highest level, Russia declares itself as a civilization. And when Russia embraces multipolarity, the currency, the Russia effectively embraces the decentralized form of governance through embracing the multipolarity. And through the decentralized form of governance, you must design a decentralized monetary system. Because monetary system is an instrument of governance. If you have centralized form of governance, you have centralized monetary system. The instrument corresponds to your form of governance. With the decentralized form of governance, you must have decentralized form of monetary, because instrument must correspond to your structure of the governance. And this is the point that I need to kind of drive down.
Yeah. Okay. But point number 3, so is it a stable coin that has government backing? That was one of the big opinions on our Telegram channel. Well, it's an interesting comment. It is a stable coin in a way, but again, depends on the perspective. Is it a stable coin and from the let me just explain this way. In IT, we understand the data set defines the algorithm, or the algorithm defines the structure of the data sets define the algorithm, or the algorithm defines the structure of the data sets. So again, here to use the same concept, is it a stable coin that with government backing? In a way, it is within the borders of the government. But since you're declaring multipolar world, that is not a stable point when you go to outside. I don't want to get into right now to the exchange values and so on, because when everybody prints, when everybody emits, the concept of the exchange value and the unit of account and is gone. Gotcha. Okay. All right. What do we have next here? Let's see. Next slide. Russia needs a digital ruble. Okay.
One of the questions that you asked in advance, and I tried to prepare based on the questions that you sent me. Why Russia needs a digital ruble, or does Russia need the digital ruble?
Well, yeah, it's kind of one of those things. Why I asked that is because in history, a lot of times if something already exists, say it's a law, and they seem to want, a lot of times people who are very globalist in their way of thinking, want to pass another law. Like, so for example, murder has always been illegal, but then they created sort of like hate crimes. So it's like if you attack someone or kill them or hurt them, well, now we have this sort of new kind of crime on top of something that was already a crime. You see what I mean? As a form of sort of societal manipulation. And we sort of already have a ruble that we can send all over the country instantly, you know, through all these banks. Why do we need something else? We basically already have this mechanism of instant interchange within Russia.
Tim, you're hitting right on the money. Why would Russia create digital ruble if the cryptocurrencies would never show up? It would never happen. Yeah. They were forced to create digital ruble to address the very existential threat to the ability of printing money. With the appearance of the Bitcoin, people in masses have started digging in, and more people understood the system of depth of value that has multiple layers of depth of value, and they start turning into the BTC, which has store of value. The key kind of the struggle that goes on right now is about this saving the value. If you declare yourself as a civilization, for example, I'm going back to the Russia declaring themselves as itself as a civilization. The Roman description of what's the difference between barbarian and the civilized person, the barbarians are only planning up to the span, up to the period of their life, up to the period of their existence.
Yeah.
The civilized person plans far ahead, further out than the existence of its life. And there is a famous, I can't remember who was the general, but he came to Egypt and put his army into the rest. And the soldiers, they start complaining there is no shade. It's too hot. And he said, plant the trees. And his subordinate said, General, planting the trees, they will take 20 years to grow. And he said, then we're 20 years behind. So this is the idea of thinking as a civilized entity from the Roman perspective. And if you do not have the store of value, you have no ability to present yourself as a civil, because you operate only at the moment, at the state, through the currency. You have no mechanism of transferring that value and relying on that value to build things forward. Mm-hmm. And this is the moment I am driving. So to answer the question, why Russia needs digital ruble? Because with invention of BTC, the fundamental change happened, that the concept of the new the concept of the new entity was born, that combines contractual money and contractual relationships together. Mm-hmm. And let me just kind of explain it a little bit better. If we look from the very basic understanding of what money is and what the value is, we break down into this, that contract, when people shake the hands, it creates value. And then that value is being transferred between the people or serviced through the money. And the programmable money becomes where the contract and money, kind of like what Bitcoin is. It's a programmable money where the contractual relationship gets bundled into the mechanism of transferring value. So it becomes kind of undivisible. The contractual relationship, the effect of building the value through the handshake, through the contract, and transferring that value. So, and if we look further, what happens is contract from the IT perspective, from the modeling perspective, is entity relationship model. Make sense? I mean, if we drop the entity, it's a relationship model.
This is kind of where you've lost me a little bit.
Okay, let's work through this. It's important.
Okay. So Bitcoin again changed, and it forced Russia to need to go sort of into the future because of what? Because people could hold on to Bitcoin.
Because the existing sorry, let me kind of, I'll go back to the first slide.
Okay.
The existing model is collapsing. That's it. We don't need to explain anything else, right? The existing model is collapsing because debt-based monetary system, the amount of money grows exponentially, the GDP grows at a much smaller rate, and this is the discrepancy that keeps growing regardless. This is done. So we need to derive to the new form of money. Everybody knows the existing credit financial system is gone. So in order to avoid to be destroyed together with the system, you have to get to the new type of system, right?
Yeah.
But in order to get to the new type of system, like we have said, it's a paradigm shift. It's a conceptually, you have to start with the concept. It's a conceptually different model. It's a model.
So what you're saying is people in the central bank and or the Russian government, they've sort of got that this whole debt-based system can't last forever, and they have to shift over to some system that at least is a little bit more reflective of GDP?
Yes. Okay. You're exactly right. So
right.
if you look from this graph, your money base should be in line with your GDP, because money representation of the value that your economy generates. And if you operate in this environment where everybody creates money out of thin air, there is no unit of account. Your unit of account is gone. What are you accounting? With your unit of account, your store of value is gone. With the store of value, what are you exchanging? This system can work only when you print money on the slow kind of enough process. But when that speed accelerates and exacerbates, as it shows here, that system is gone. It's toasted. That's it. You can't operate under this. It's collapsing. So in order to continue to operate as a society and as an economy, you have to fix the unit of account. Okay. That's the very first basis. And that's where the Sergei Glaziev comes in, and he says, okay, let's tie to resources. But why? Well, because we can count, there is so much resources and so on and so on. But then, like I mentioned before, there's an idea of the rehypothecation and so on. But also, when you tie to the resources, there is a system of control of the resources and a centralized system of governance. And like we start getting to this problem where we already have technologies of disintermediating. First of all, we have technology that control the unit of account as a BTC, right? And also the ability that disintermediates the need for the money. And this is where the clash of the ideas, clash of the perception kicks in, because automatically the government lives and the experts are living in the centralized form of governance. They cannot grasp what it's like to be in a decentralized system of governance.
Mm-hmm.
Because they do not understand these discussions and these conversations are not taking place, and as a result of it, the whole discussion gets derailed back into the centralized form of governance, centralized form of money, which central bank is kind of like in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
So, and what I'm trying to say is that you have to step back with this slide. What I'm trying to say is that you have to step back and start modeling money from the first principles. Mm-hmm. You have to really look back and from macroeconomic, from institutional perspective, start defining what is money. With the traditional definition, money defines by those three values. Mm-hmm. We are saying that we have a new it's not even macroeconomic, it's ontological entity that has new features and characteristics. Mm-hmm. Where if you look how the value gets created, again, I'm repeating, right? It creates the value, like if you have something and I need this, right?
Yeah.
When I ask you and we handshake, that's the value gets created, right? If I have something, nobody needs it. There's no value to it.
Well, yeah, basically, if I paid $1 for something and you agreed to it and sold it to me, that means that it had proof that it had the value of $1 at that moment.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. But let's just even not use the word dollar. It's some kind of unit, something.
Yeah, unit, yeah.
Consideration, right?
Okay.
And that's how low we have to go. Okay, we understand how value gets created. Now, we understand that money is a function of transferring that value, of servicing that value. You can put away in the form of money that energy, that value, and use it later and so on. There is all kinds of functionality. But that value gets stolen with creating more value. So we have to have technology that stops that loss of value from the aggregate system, which we have. And also we are at the point where we create a technology where the contractual agreements, the rules of the contract of our handshake can be programmed into money.
Yeah.
So we it's a completely new type of mechanism where we handshake and we build the exchange of the value in such a way that this mechanism allows to exchange the value as the contract gets fulfilled. So, and when we look from the modeling perspective, we're saying that contract is effectively, it's a relationship model. It's a terms and conditions that we have described through the form of relationship that we have to fulfill. Money is also, it's a relationship model. It's IOU. And the management and governance, when you manage or you govern something, it's also the relationship model.
Okay.
When you model. And the ownership, the concept of the ownership, according to the Karl Marx, is also entity relationship model. People think the ownership, the form of ownership is designed in the form of in the form of object. It's actually an agreement. Like, for example, you have a pen on your desk.
Yeah.
It's not the pen that the ownership, the concept of the ownership.
It's that we agree that I own the pen.
Exactly.
Okay. Gotcha.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Okay.
So when we realize this is all things of the same kind, of the same type, of the same nature, they're all relationships. We are now building this. And we have the ability to program it. We are now can build this completely different system of collaboration that takes into account all these types of relationships.
Okay. All right.
So
well, let's see. Let's keep going on here. What do we have next? I'm starting to get this. Yeah.
So I think Your third question was Russia is very skeptical of the central bank due to its semi-independent nature.
Yeah.
And they are worried that if it's a mechanism of colonization that is being used against Russia, or
I'll put it this way: have you ever met any Russian people who actually understand what the central bank is, who support it and like it? I haven't met one.
So, I haven't met one.
You know.
Yes, it's true, absolutely, and it's. I mean, I don't blame anyone. I take the same position. And when you look at the role of the central bank, it's a and how it operates and how the whole system is set up. Why would you like it, or why would you love it? But the central bank was viewed as a necessary evil because of the centralized nature of the governance.
Mm-hmm.
The system was formalized and worked. All the details and intricacies got worked out, and also it's kind of like the framework of the entire world. Mm-hmm. But as the world now collapses, we have ability to construct something new. But unfortunately, these conversations are not taking place right now, neither in the central bank nor in government.
Interesting.
And this is the challenge as the crisis is getting more and more kind of like in a more and more.
Do you think this has to do with the war being distracting, or maybe, to be honest, maybe a lot of people are too dumb? They just really don't get it.
Well, I don't want to say people are too dumb or not, but for whatever reason, I don't know what it is. There is no conversation takes place that looks at things from the holistic perspective. Mm-hmm. You have to start. This is different kind of.
I'll tell you one thing, Dmitry. Sorry to interrupt you, but nothing in the Russian government comes from a holistic perspective because it's run in a bureaucratic mechanism, by bureaucratic mechanisms, and bureaucratic mechanisms generally don't relate to that. Holistic is more like the emperor wills it to be, and so we're going to create this doctrine to get this done. Whereas when you live in this Western-style democracy that's been filtered through the 90s, everything is one bureaucratic checkbox or mechanism after another. I think that could be a huge reason. But anyways, I'm getting in your way here. What do we have here? Unipolar versus multipolar ontology model here.
Yes, you're bringing up the very important point, and this is why I switched the slide. Yeah. Is when it comes from the centralized form of government, and unless the bureaucrat says do it.
Yeah.
It gets done. Otherwise, it doesn't get done. This is recipe for collapse. As much as I hate to say this.
Well, it's a recipe for stagnation. I mean, Dmitry, you probably aren't familiar with this, but I'm trying to do this project called the American Villages in Russia. And we got land donated to us. We've gotten all the contacts with all the government officials. We have all the documents in order. And I think we've been waiting since New Year's just to finally get our turn. So that way we can get a stamp put on this thing to make it happen. And it's one of these things, and it's not just that, but that's very reflective of how everything I've had to do in Russia that's related to the government, how it kind of works.
Right.
Well, the guy with the stamp isn't there, so we can't do it.
All right.
It's like, holy moly.
Yes.
Anyways,
yes.
Sorry.
Yes. So I will come back to this slide in a second, but let me, in relation to what you have described, let me flip to this slide.
Mm-hmm.
What you have described is if I am to take it kind of like an abstract kind of way, is the type of thinking, the centralized form of governance describes the choice for the architecture.
Yeah.
The old, like we said, the old way no longer works. We have to step up to the different model. And let me run you through the example. But in order to step up to the new model, you have to. It comes from it has to come from the high level of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm the bureaucrat, let's say, and I sit and I am at the, let's say, at the level of I am systemically important. I'm part of the system, right? So I am required to have systemic level of thinking.
Yeah.
So which translate to the component-based business architecture.
Mm-hmm.
And when somebody comes to me and tells me this is what I'd like to do, if my level of thinking is such is a bureaucratic way, and I say, where am I in it? Where is my interest in it?
Mm-hmm.
So I am automatically bringing myself down to the functional level of thinking.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, where's my function in it?
Where's my
And
stamp?
Right. Well, stamp, and also as this thing gets developed, where's my interest in it, right?
Yeah.
From the, like when I say where's my function, where's my interest, right? Economic interest, or maybe social interest, something that I am beneficial to, that I become the beneficiary to.
Mm-hmm.
And when I phrase the word this way, I am immediately bringing myself from the systemic level of thinking to the and component-based architecture to the function-centric business architecture. That's a level lower. And now all of my decisions will be based on such level. I will never reach the systemic, the component-based architecture and the systemic thinking. So the system, I'm part of it. I'm actually destroying it. I'm breaking it down to bring it by such a way of conducting my business.
Mm-hmm.
And let me give you another kind of like abstract way of describing the situation.
Mm-hmm.
The concrete thinking is a process-centric type of corresponds to the process-centric business architecture. So here's a step number 1, step number 2, step number 3, step number 4 that I need to do it.
Yeah.
I am thinking in a very concrete terms.
Mm-hmm.
When I am abstracting the concrete thinking and I say, well, the step is just a function, I am deriving to the functional level of thinking. I am able to abstract the process from the entities that it serves. And I'm saying, well, that's just a function that can be used in many different processes. When I am able to realize that function is part of the system and it has cause and effects and the relationships attached to it, so that execution of one function causes execution of another function, and there is a cause and effect, I am actually raising myself up to the systemic level of thinking. And when from the systems perspective, I'm realizing there is a multiple systems and there is a relationship between systems and so on, I'm actually abstracting out to the methodological way of thinking. So today's crisis, unfortunately, exists on the methodological level. Unless we start thinking as a society and solve the problems from the methodological level, all the way down to the processes, we are not going to resolve, and we will collapse as a society as a whole. And unfortunately today, what Central Bank of Russia has done with the Digital Ruble, it is systemic institution that positions himself into the functional level of thinking by saying, I have to be in the middle. And this brings us down to the centralized system of governments. This is different ontological models, unipolar versus multipolar ontology model. The centralized system of governments has ontology model is what we call is one-to-many relationships. I'm in charge and I make all the decisions, and this is the specialization, division of labor, and specialization under me.
Yeah.
This model no longer works. And this model is the subset of many-to-many relationships, or the multipolar world, where you have multiple of ideas, and those multiple of ideas get together through or gets assembled through an act of execution. So in order to pull them together into an act of execution, you have to have the protocols of collaboration that can work together and can allow you get to that point of assembly, point of working together in a constructive way. And money is part of the protocol of the collaboration, which has a sophisticated structure and which is not happening today.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any of this, active execution assembly? Do you have any examples of that from the real world, be they business or cultural or something?
The most closest one is probably cooperative, but the challenge with the cooperative is such that it still has centralized. I mean, even though there is a concept of the shares and everybody kind of equals through the structure of it, but the form of governance is still centralized, and people vote to get the executing body, and then the body, that execution body gets to make a decision on behalf of everyone, and sometimes that power gets hijacked by the executive body. So what we have to have this concept of the cooperative, but where there is mechanism, and it doesn't exist today. This is we're at the phase where we need to design this, where we have to construct the shared environment for designing socioeconomic model, just the way the AutoCAD works, right? There is a like when we build, for example, tractor.
Yeah.
We design an AutoCAD, right?
Yeah.
And then we assemble it and we ship it to the factory. Mm-hmm. So from social economic aspects, we are at the stage where we have to have the same process. We have to have a mechanism, some kind of AutoCAD that where we can all design together. Each one has its own part, and then pull it together. And through the act of assembly and execution, we can get it working together. Let me see. I have another slide here. Just one second.
Well, you know what? One thing, Dmitry, because my program usually can only be uploaded for 1 hour, we're going to take a quick break here and get back with part 2 with Dmitry.